Good morning, everybody. Today I'm here to report on a reading progress from the week of March 1st to March 7th. So let's begin. The first book I'm currently reading is The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn. This is my second book by this author after reading the Rose Code in December. She writes a lot of historical fiction books. This one is based on a true story. The New York Times bestselling author of The Rose Code returns with an unforgettable World War II tale of a quiet bookworm who becomes history's deadliest female sniper. Writer and bookish history student Mila Pavlenchenko organizes her life around her library job and her young son, but Hitler's invasion of Russia sends her on a different path. Given a rifle and sent to join the fight, Mila must transform herself from studious girl to deadly sniper, a lethal hunter of Nazis known as Lady Death. When news of her 300th kill makes her a national heroine, Mila is torn from the battlefields of the Eastern Front and sent to America on a goodwill tour. Still reeling from war wounds and devastated by loss, Mila finds herself isolated and lonely in the glittering world of Washington, D.C., until an unexpected friendship with First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt, an even more unsuspected connection with a silent fellow sniper, offers the possibility of happiness. But when an old enemy from Mila's past joins forces with a deadly new foe lurking in the shadows, Lady Death finds herself battling her own demons and enemy bullets in the deadliest duel of her life. Based on a true story, The Diamond Eye is a haunting novel of heroism, of a mother who becomes a soldier, and of a woman who found her place in the world and changed the course of history forever. I started this book on February 26th, and I am on chapter 15, page 177. The next book that I'm currently reading is The Deja Glitch, which was recommended to me by Gabby Reads. She read this last Halloween. I can't remember the rating she gave it. This is my first book by this author. And I am currently on chapter 9, page 150. The next book I'm currently reading is The Geographer's Map to Romance by India Holton. This is the sequel to the Ornithologist's Field Guide to Love, and this focuses on Gabriel Tarrant, who is a grumpy, unfriendly man and he is paired up with our main character, Elodie. When magic erupts in a small Welsh village, threatening catastrophe for the rest of England, Elodie and Gabriel are accidentally both assigned to the case. With the fate of the country in their hands, they must come together as a team in the face of perilous conditions like explosions, domesticated goats, and only one bed. But this is easier said than done. After all, there's no navigational guide for the geography of the heart. I am currently on chapter 10, page 136. The next book I'm reading is the biography of Jordan Chiles, who was a gymnast on the Olympic team a couple of years ago, and she was also on Dancing with the Stars last season. So this is her biography about how she got into gymnastics and what it's like to train for the Olympics. I first got interested in gymnastics in the 90s when I was in elementary school, because back then the Magnificent Seven was in the Olympics, and my favorite gymnast on that team was Shannon Miller. In this book, I am currently on chapter 10, page 85. The next book I borrowed from my mother-in-law before Christmas, and it's taking me a while to get through it. This is called My Kitchen Year by Ruth Rachel, and this is my, let me see, 5th book by this author, I think. I have read Tender at the Bone, Comfort Me with Apples, Garlic and Sapphires, and also the Paris novel, which is a general fiction book. So this is basically a memoir and recipes that highlights her year cooking in the kitchen. I am currently on page 166, and once I'm done reading this, we're going to try some of the recipes. The next book I'm reading, I borrowed from my mom. It is called The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I started this on February 20th, and I am currently on page 309, chapter 26. The next book is called The Proposals by K.T. Hoffman. I found this book on a disability awareness Instagram post. Panic attacks. One of the characters in this book has panic attacks, and currently I am on chapter 6, page 67. So for these library books, I have trouble reading the stuff on the back because the barcode is covering it. But this is about transgendered baseball players who are having trouble coming out in the minor leagues. I'm really enjoying this so far. I'm only on page 67, chapter 6. The next book I'm reading I borrowed from my neighbor Kathleen. It's called Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. I read the 4th book in this series in December, so I decided to go back from the beginning and read the whole series. After the death of her beloved grandmother, a Cuban-American woman travels to Havana where she discovers the roots of her identity and unearths her family secret hidden since the revolution. Havana, 1958. The daughter of a sugar baron, 19-year-old Elsa Perez is part of Cuba's high society where she's largely sheltered from the country's growing political unrest, until she embarks on a clandestine affair with a passionate revolutionary. Miami, 2017. Freelance writer Marisol Ferreira grew up hearing romantic stories of Cuba and her late grandmother, Eliza, who was forced to flee with her family during the revolution. Elsa's last wish was for Marisol to scatter her ashes in the country of her birth. Arriving in Havana, Marisol comes face to face with the contrast of Cuba's topical, timeless beauty and its perilous political climate. When more family history comes to light and Marisol finds herself attached to a man with secrets of his own, she'll need the lessons of her grandmother's past to help her understand the true meaning of courage and what it means to be Cuban. Currently, I am on chapter 17, page 205. The next book is called Great Soul of Siberia by So-Young Park. This book and another book I'm going to be reading this month called Spell of the Tiger by Cy Montgomery was recommended to me by Olive at A Book Olive in her video about books about tigers. And this book is about a Korean researcher, So-young Park, who follows Bengal tigers for a year, and I would not want that job because I would be nervous about getting eaten by the tigers. And I am currently on chapter 5, Timu, the Spirit of Storm, page 43. The next book I'm reading is called The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. This is a middle grade novel about a robot that gets washed up on an island and raises a baby bird. It's really cute. I listened to the audiobook last year and gave it 5 stars. And this book has 2 other books in the series called The Wild Robot Escapes and The Wild Robot Protects, which I'm going to be reading in the next month or so. In this book, currently, I am on chapter 58, page 188. Now we are going to get into the books that I finished reading. The first book I'm going to talk about is Daddy Issues by Kate Goldbeck. So this book focuses on a 26-year-old girl named Sam Pulaski, who is expected to be thriving in an exciting career, not stuck in her hometown, crashing with her mom. But when a single dad becomes her new neighbor and she finds herself attracted to his steady, settled life and quiet confidence, she realizes she might not know what she wants after all. So this is a age gap romance between 26-year-old Sam and Nick, who is a single dad who is probably 10 or 20 years older than her. And I selected this book for the Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR because Sam is the same age that Monica was in season 1 of Friends when she was dating Richard. Is this relationship similar to Monica and Richard? No. I mean, Daddy Issues is a pretty obvious title because I think Monica has daddy issues because she's kind of bullied by her parents because of her weight and also bullied by Ross. So I think my theory is that she goes to Richard for comfort because she doesn't get any validation from her own father because her father is complicit in the manipulation that the mother gives and also the favoritism towards Ross. And she goes to Richard for getting the validation that she needs that she doesn't get from her dad. Although, there are 2 scenes in 2 separate episodes. The one where Nana dies twice and the one where, the one with the Princess Leia fantasy where you see Monica and Richard bonding, and I wish we had gotten more scenes with them bonding like that instead of all of the mistreatment towards her that was given by Judy because she's neglectful and mean. The next book I finished reading is a new release from January called An Arcane Inheritance by Camila Cole. I think this is this author's debut, and it came out in January, as I said. It's a dark academia novel that focuses on Ellery and Hudson. And they are set together. They are paired together on a project to work on a school's history. They are students at a Ivy League school. The school is not named, but I feel like it's an Ivy League school similar to Harvard or Yale. So I selected this for the Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR because it's set at an Ivy League school like Yale, though the school in this book is not named. Ellery Morgan is determined to prove that she belongs at Warren University, an Ivy League school whose history is deeply linked to occult rumors and dark secrets. But as she settles into her freshman year, something about the ornate buildings and shadowy paths feels strangely familiar. And with each passing sense of deja vu, she grows increasingly sinister. Despite all logic, despite all reason, despite all the rules of reality, Ellery knows one thing to be true. She has been here before, and if she can't convince brooding legacy student Harlan Hudson Graves to help her remember a past that seems determined to slip through her fingers as if by some insidious magic, this time she may lose herself for good. I really liked this author's writing style, and I was very immersed in the spooky setting of the Ivy League college, Warren University, which is obviously a fake university that is similar to Harvard or Yale. I gave this book 4.5 stars. I also gave Daddy Issues 4.5 stars. Daddy Issues was a lot better for me than Kate Goldbeck's first book, which I read in 2024, called You Again, which is a When Harry Met Sally retelling. The next book that I read is Allie Raisman's biography called Fierce: How Competing for Myself Changed Everything. And she provides advice in the back of the book on page 345 to 347. Here's some of the advice she gives. Find people you trust, quality over quantity. Make time for yourself and appreciate your own worth, because you're worth a lot. Strive to make the world a kinder place. The impact of your kindness can be bigger than you think. Don't let anyone tell you what's best for you. Listen to advice and weigh it carefully, but remember that you should be there, the one making the decisions. Most of the time, you know what's best for you. Set goals for yourself and don't be afraid to follow them as far as they'll take you. Accept the fact that if you don't accomplish your goals, that's okay. Focus on the hard work you put into it and can be proud of that. I love the advice that she's giving. It's very powerful, and I'm going to definitely apply some of these things to my life. So she was on the gymnastics team in 2016 in the Rio Olympics, and I really liked following her story of preparing for the Olympics. And she's actually from Massachusetts. Her home gym is in Needham, Mass, which is not very far from where I grew up in Saugus. I gave this book 5 stars. The next book I finished reading is Love is a War Song by Danica Nava. This is by the same author who wrote The Truth According to Ember, which I read in November and gave 3 stars to. I thought Ember's character was a bit too whiny. This book focuses on Avery Fox, who is a Native American pop singer. Who is living on an Indian reservation as a Native American pop star. The Native American reservation that she lives on is in Oklahoma. And I really like the Native American representation in this book because it's about a tribe you don't really know a lot about. Red Fox Ranch has been home to Lucas Iron Eyes since he was 16 years old. He has lived there 3 rules to keep himself out of trouble. Preserve the culture, respect the horses, and stick to himself. When he discovers Lottie's granddaughter is the Avery Fox, he knows she'll bring nothing but trouble. Lucas can't stand what she represents, but what he's forced to work with on the ranch, he can't get her out of his sight or out of his head. He remains himself to keep to the rules, especially after He reminds himself to keep to the rules, especially after he finds out the ranch is under the threat of being shut down. It's clear Avery doesn't belong here, but they form a tentative truce and make a deal. Avery will help raise funds to save the ranch, and in exchange, Lucas will show her what it really means to be an Indian. It's purely transactional, absolutely no horsing around, and what's the fun in that? This book gets 4.5 stars because I like the fact that it's kind of like a pop star and a civilian becoming friends. It makes me think of Hannah Montana in a little bit of ways. If you're familiar with Hannah Montana, this was actually on a reading list on Instagram I found about books paired up with movies, and it was paired up with Hannah Montana, the movie. I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book I just finished reading is Saints for All Occasions by J. Courtney Sullivan. This is my second book by this author after reading The Cliffs last summer, which was a Reese's book club pick. I gave 4.5 stars to because it's set in Maine and it's a murder mystery. This book is more historical fiction, and it focuses on two sisters named Nora and Teresa Flynn who leave their small village in Ireland to move to the USA. And it flows back and forth between different timelines. The first timeline is set in 2009. (1958 to 1967). Wait a minute. I skipped a section. Or maybe I didn't. I don't know. So I really liked how this flows how this narrative flows in between different time periods, because it makes you also learn about the family of these two sisters, Teresa and Nora. And I found this on the Irish authors shelf at the library for St. Patrick's Day. I gave this book 4 stars. The final book I just finished reading is The Society of Unknowable Objects by Gareth Brown. This book was recommended to me by Carly at the Pastel Bookshelf. She mentioned this in her video where she paired up books with movies. And she paired this book up with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, which is a prequel to Harry Potter, which Matt and I reviewed in our January wrap-up video, which will be linked below. January, February. So, the world of unknowable objects, magical items that most people have no idea possess powers, has been quiet for decades. But the 3 current members of a secret society have remained watchful, meeting every 6 months in the basement of a bookshop in London. They are pledged to protect their archive of magical items hidden away, safe from the outside world and the world safe from them. But when Frank Simpson, the longest-standing member of the Society of Unknowable Objects, hears of a new artifact coming to light in Hong Kong, he sends Magda Sparks, author by day and newest member, to investigate. Within hours of arriving in Hong Kong, Magda is facing death and danger, confronted by a professional killer who seems to know all unknowable objects, specifically ones that were stolen from him a decade before. Magda is forced to flee using an artifact that not even the rest of the society knows about. Returning to London, Magda learns hers is not the only secret being kept from the other 2 members, and that the most pernicious secret is about the nature of the society's mission. Her discoveries will lead her on a perilous journey across the Atlantic to the deep south of the United States, now in pursuit of not an unknowable object, but an unknowable person, a professional killer she first faced in Hong Kong. In doing so, Magda begins to understand that there are even more in the world who are chasing these magical items, and that her own family's legacy is tied up in keeping all of the secrets under wraps. Magic has always been too powerful to reveal to the world, but Magda will learn there might be something even more powerful, the truth. So this author also wrote The Book of Doors, which I have also read, and both of these books get 4.5 stars. 2 other books I have read recently are, 3. The first one was a reread of Business Casual by B.K. Borison, which is the 4th book in the Love Life Farm series. The 4.5 star rating of that book has not changed. We selected that book for the TBR because Nora and Charlie, the couple in this book, is similar to Monica and Chandler. The second book I just finished reading is a book I borrowed from Kathleen called Dewey the Library Cat by Brett Witter and Vicky Myron. This is about a library in rural Idaho that adopts a cat named Dewey and has it be their mascot. This book is similar to Marley and Me because it's about people adopting and raising a pet. And I connected to this character, Vicky, because Dewey is found in a library drop box, and he was basically abandoned by whoever put him in the drop box, who might have been his owner, who couldn't take care of him. Do I think it was appropriate for her to raise the cat in the library? Probably not, but I really loved following the adventures of Dewey. It was a really great book, and I really enjoyed it. I gave that book 4.5 stars, and I guess there's a movie made of it, but I couldn't find it listed on IMDb in order to add it to my watch list. But I don't know who is in the movie, but my dream role for the librarian is Rachel Lee Cook from the Babysitters Club movie, and she's all that. So let me just talk about my 5-star reads from January and February. I didn't go into books that other highly anticipated books of this month. Hang on. Alright, so my 5-star reads for January were Battle of the Bookshops by Ali Brady, Coffin Moon by Keith Rawson, Bad Nature, I don't have that author's name in front of me, The Enchanted Greenhouse by Sarah Beth Durst, The Merge, The Secret Summer Promise, The Gurney Literary and Potato Peel Pie Society, The Correspondent, and We Don't Know Ourselves. My February 5-star reads were Beth is Dead by Katie Burnett, Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, which was a reread, Naked by David Sedaris, and the other book I read by David Sedaris called Me Talk Pretty One Day was also 5 stars. Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler, That's Not How It Happened by Craig Thomas, which I reviewed in the video that Matt and I made last weekend. The Puppet Show by M.W. Craven, which was another book that was recommended to me by Carly. This series is unfortunately only available in England, so my library does not have it. I may have to order the rest of the series from Waterstones, and that might be a little bit expensive because of international shipping. The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and The Wedding Party by Jasmine Gilroy. Okay, and on my priority TBR for the rest of this month are the following books. Spell of the Tiger by Cy Montgomery, You with the Sad Eyes, which is Christina Applegate's memoir, which was released on March 3rd. And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison, Anne of Avenue A by Audrey Bellezza and Emily Harding, which is the 3rd book in the modern retelling series of Jane Austen books, with Emma of 83rd Street and Elizabeth of East Hampton. Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy, My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney, The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez, which will be technically on my April TBR because it comes out on March 31st. Higher Magic by... I have that book in the other room. I forgot it. And then audiobooks that I need to complete are The Favorites and Friends, Lovers, and A Big Terrible Thing. So what are you reading this month? What did you read last month that you really liked? Share your TBR and what you liked last month or in January in the comment box below, and I will see you in a couple of weeks for my next reading progress video. Thank you for tuning in.